Welcome to the training on completing the quarterly report template. On screen is a sample template that we will walk through over the next few minutes. Initially, I will highlight the overall template layout and key features. The first key feature is color coding. You'll notice there are gray cells and white cells in the template. The gray cells are pre-populated or calculated fields, and the white cells are user input fields. We'll talk more about those user input fields as we work our way through the template. I'm going to zoom in here so we can see the template a little bit better. The next key feature I want to cover are tooltips that are included in the quarterly report template. Tooltips provide the user with detailed information on data fields, and users can access the tooltips by hovering their cursor over each data field. As an example, hover over total potential allocation. You'll see the tooltip with the red caret in the upper right-hand corner of the respective cell. Likewise with cumulative funds dispersed to participating jurisdictions, as well as a number of other data fields throughout the template. The final feature I want to cover is conditional formatting. I mentioned earlier that there are two colors in the template, gray and white. Obviously, there is a third color, red. This is a conditional formatting. Conditional formatting will cause cells to be highlighted in red if a value in that cell or in the cells that are used to sum up that cell is not expected and may not be correct. Usually this means there is an inputting error. Users should double check their inputs to try to correct the error. And if PJs are having trouble completing the report, please reach out to your outreach manager. For this example, you'll notice that there are 3 red cells based on a user inputting error of adding an additional 0 to 1.8 million here. The intended input is 180,000. So if I delete that 0, those conditional formattings go away. Moving on to a description of each section of the template. Section 1 up in the top here is reporting period and participating jurisdiction information. This section includes 3 data fields. The first is the reporting period. This is a pre-populated field to reflect the reporting period start and end dates. Obviously, this is a sample, so these dates are in the past. The second field in this section is submission deadline. This again is a pre-populated field to reflect the quarterly report submission deadline. Again, this is a sample, so this date is in the past. Finally, participating jurisdiction is the third data element in this section. And this again is a pre-populated data element to reflect the name of the participating jurisdiction. In this sample case, just state. Section 2, program information. The first data element in this section is total potential allocation. This the total potential allocation amount is pre-populated from the allocation agreement. The second data element in this section is cumulative funds dispersed to participating jurisdiction. This is the sum of all current disbursements. In this example case, 3 million for total potential allocation. 1/3 of that has been dispersed, so 1 million is reflected. Continuing on in section 2, program information. This section includes a column for approved program name. This is a pre-populated field to reflect the executed allocation agreement, where each approved program will be listed for your jurisdiction. The second column in this section is program type. This again is a pre-populated field based on the approved application. The third column in this section is Primary Program Administrator. This is a pre-populated field based on the approved application to reflect the entity or entities primarily responsible for each approved program. And finally, Program Allocation. This again is a pre-populated field from the approved application. For this example, we have 3 approved programs: State Loan Guarantee, State Loan Participation, and State VC Fund. And these programs have 1.95, 550, and 500,000 program allocation respectively. Moving on to Program Allocated Funds, EOT. This section includes 4 columns. The first is cumulative as of prior quarter end. This is a pre-populated field to reflect the cumulative amount of allocated funds, EOT, as of the end of the prior quarter. For PJs completing and submitting a quarterly report for the first time, this field will be blank. The second column in this section is adjustment. If applicable, PJs will enter adjustments to prior quarter allocated funds, EOT. As Sue covered previously, the following are acceptable justifications for making adjustments. The first is removing an obligated loan or investment that is no longer expected to close. The second is correcting a clerical error. And the third is as directed by SSBCI. As a reminder, PJ should briefly explain the reason for any adjustments in the additional information text box. If there are multiple adjustments, the PJ should briefly explain each. And for adjustments outside of a loan or investment that is no longer expected to close or correcting a clerical error, PJ should reach out to SSBCI. The third column in this section is current quarter. PJs will enter the amount of allocated funds, EOT, for each approved program for the current quarter in this column. The final column in this section is cumulative as of current quarter. This is a calculated field that is the sum of cumulative as of prior quarter end, adjustments, and current quarter. Scrolling to the right on the template, recycled funds EOT is the next section. This includes the same 4 columns as the previous section, except this is for recycled funds. I'll briefly cover each of these columns again. The first column in recycled funds EOT is cumulative as of prior quarter end. Again, this is a pre-populated field to reflect the cumulative amount of recycled funds EOT as of the end of the prior quarter. The second column in this section is adjustments. If applicable, PJs will enter any adjustments to prior quarter recycled funds EOT. The same 3 acceptable justifications for making adjustments apply to this section as the previous section. The third column in this section is current quarter. PJs will enter the amount of recycled funds EOT for each approved program for the current quarter. And finally, in this section, cumulative as of current quarter is a calculated field that is the sum of cumulative as of prior quarter end, adjustments, and current quarter. Scrolling back to the left and down a little bit, we'll move on to section 3. Section 3 is funds EOT for administrative costs. Similar to the previous 2 sections, this will have the same 4 columns. The first column is cumulative as of prior quarter end. This is a pre-populated field to reflect the cumulative amount of administrative costs as of the end of the prior quarter. There's again an adjustments field. If applicable, PJs will enter adjustments to prior quarter administrative costs. And an exception here is that there are only 2 acceptable justifications for making an adjustment in this section: correcting a clerical error or as directed by SSBCI. Similar to the previous section, PJ should briefly explain the reason for any adjustment in the additional information text box. We'll cover that text box shortly. The third column in this section is current quarter. PJs will enter the amount of direct and indirect administrative costs EOT for the current quarter. The fourth column in this section is cumulative as of current quarter. This is a calculated field that is the sum of cumulative as of prior quarter end, adjustments, and current quarter. This section also includes 3 pre-populated or calculated fields to inform the PJ of their administrative cost threshold, percent administrative costs of cumulative funds dispersed, and percent administrative costs of cumulative funds EOT as of current quarter. In this example, the administrative cost threshold is 50,000. Their administrative costs as a percentage of cumulative funds dispersed to participating jurisdictions is calculated at 1%. And administrative costs as a percentage of cumulative program allocated funds EOT as of current quarter is 5.26%. Continuing on down to section 4, other required information. This section includes information on program income and cap charge-offs. Similar to the previous 3 sections, you'll notice the same 4 columns are present here. I won't cover these in detail because they are identical to the previous 3 sections. Just highlight them briefly. Cumulative as of prior quarter end, again, is a pre-populated field to reflect program income and cap charge-offs as of the end of the prior quarter. Adjustments similar to the previous section, if applicable, PJs will enter adjustments to prior quarter program income or cap charge-offs, again, for correcting a clerical error or as directed by SSBCI. Current quarter, PJs will enter the amount of program income and cap charge-offs for the current quarter. And finally, cumulative as of current quarter, a calculated field that is the sum of cumulative as of prior quarter end, adjustments, and current quarter. Moving down to that additional information text box. This text box is available for PJs to document explanations that are required for any adjustments entered in the program allocated funds EOT, recycled funds EOT, administrative costs, or other required information sections. This text box has a 1,000-character limit. And finally, moving down to section 5, contracted entity name. Contracted entity name includes entities that have contractual arrangements with the PJ or the PJ's implemented entity for the implementation or administration of its capital program. This is a pre-populated field for those entities listed in a PJ's allocation agreement. The second column in this section is budgeted amount. PJs are required to submit the amount of funds budgeted by the PJ to each contracted entity for the life of the program. This concludes the training on completing the quarterly report template.